This is part B for the A-5 notes. We are going to be solving more equations. These we're going to solve by factoring. And you might notice that they have a higher degree, so a degree that's bigger than 2 is their highest degree. So what you're going to do is get everything on the same side. So I'm going to subtract 24x squared over the other side. Let's see, minus 24x squared. And then ask yourself, what can you factor out of these two terms? And keep in mind, when you take 24 over to the other side, you're going to have a 0 left on the right side. So here, both of these numbers are divisible by 3, and then for the x values, we can take out the smallest values, so that would be x squared. So this is going to be 3x squared on the outside, leaving us with x squared minus 8 on the inside. Unfortunately, that's not a perfect square, so we can't factor much farther. But what you can do is take each part and set it equal to 0. So this one would be x is equal to 0 and positive and negative, and this will be another repeating value. For this one, set x squared minus 8 equal to 0 and solve. So you'll add 8 over the other side and then take the square root of both sides to solve for x. And keep in mind you get plus or minus 8, or the 8 plus or minus the square root of 8. So here's that. Here's that. Example H, we are going to factor by grouping, which we did a couple sections ago. So a quick refresher on that. We are going to look at the first two terms and ask ourselves, what can we factor out of those? X minus 3. And then look at the next two terms, and you have to factor out something from these two terms so that you end up with the same quantity as you did with the first part. So I'm going to take out a negative 3. So I'm going to get an x minus 3. Here we have the same quantity in the front and back part of this equation, so we can take that and factor it out. And the leftovers combine together in the second quantity. Once you have that, you can solve. Here you're going to get x is equal to 3. Don't know where that 0 came from. And then this next one, so here x is equal to 3 for that one. And then for this one, x squared minus 3 equals 0. You can add 3 and then take the square root. So x is going to equal plus and minus the square root of 3. So now we have some more equations where the radical is apparent, or that we're going to have an exponent, like this is to the 3/2 power. I know it's not really showing up very well in the video. So this is x to the 3/2 minus 8. If you ever want to solve questions like this, I kind of put some steps or some hints over to the side. What you're going to want to do is isolate your exponent or radical, and then what you're going to do is use the reciprocal exponent to get rid of that value, so to get rid of like the 3/2 or the square root in part J. So let's try doing this. So we're going to isolate the exponent or radical, which means that we need to get any numbers or other values off to the other side. So we're going to add 8. Equals 8. Once you're ready, you can do the reciprocal exponent. So pretty much, since this is to the 3/2, we're going to raise it to its reciprocal, which is 2/3. And what happens here is that 3/2 times 2/3 is just the first. So you're going to be left with x to the first. And then actually your calculator will do 8 to the 2/3 power if you want it to. You can just do 8, then raise to the, and I like to put it in parentheses, 2/3, and press enter, and you get 4. So here x is going to equal 4. And you can double check. If you take 4 to the 3/2 power minus 8, it does end up equaling 0, so this is good. Again, it's always good to watch out for extraneous solutions. I bet we're going to have one here. So let's see how this works out. Again, we have a radical, and if we're following the steps off to the side, we're going to need to isolate it. So I'm going to add x. So we get the square root of 2x plus 7 is equal to x plus 2. This next part, in order to get rid of this radical, what you can do is raise both sides to the second power. Keep in mind that here's the case, you're not going to distribute the 2 into the x in the 2. It's actually going to be foiling x plus 2 times x plus 2. All right, so this is really that, okay? So what you're going to do first, outside, inside, last, or if you have those foiling properties down pat, this is going to become x squared plus 4x plus 4. And then over on this side, the square root and the square, those cancel each other out, so you're going to have 2x plus 7. At this point, you can start solving. Since I see that I have a quadratic type equation, I'm going to go ahead and set everything equal to 0. So I'm going to take the 2x and the 7 and subtract them over to the right side. Let's see, minus 2x, or plus 2x. And then 4 minus 7 is negative 3. This is factorable. There are factors of negative 3 that get 2. In fact, they're going to be x plus 3 and x minus 1. Keep in mind this is still set equal to 0. So what you can do then is take each part, set it equal to 0, and solve. So this one is going to give us an answer of x is equal to negative 3. And this binomial is going to give us an answer, possibility of x equaling 1. Once you get these, especially with radicals, it's really key. If you ever get negative numbers, try plugging them back into this radical. What happens is that you're going to get the square root of 2 times negative 3 plus 7. This is the square root of negative 6 plus 1, or plus 7. Oh, I guess there's more to it. So then minus negative 3 is equal to 2. Equaling 2. This radical ends up being 1. Minus and negative is a plus, so you get 1 plus 3, and that is not equal to 2, so it doesn't work out. So this is extraneous. So the only solution is x minus 1. On to the last part, and it is dealing with absolute values. What you need to keep in mind for an absolute value problem is just the simplest form. If you had the absolute value of x is equal to 3, then the possibilities for x could be positive 3, right, because the absolute value of positive 3 is 3, but it could also be negative 3. So you could also put a negative 3 in here, and it would spit out positive 3. So x is either going to be positive or negative 3, which means that you're always going to have a positive case and a negative case. Don't worry, I didn't give you a lot of these on the homework just because they are, they kind of take up some time. So what you might need to note is either this positive, negative, or for absolute value, you're going to set up 2 equations. One is the positive, and really all you do is you take what is written on the inside of this absolute value, and you just rewrite the absolute value part, but with no absolute value sign. So this is just going to be x squared minus 3x is equal to, and then you just keep this as written, negative 4x plus 6. So that's pretty easy to set up the positive side. What I would do, I see the x squared and the x, we probably are going to have a quadratic format. So I'm going to take what's on the right side, and we're going to take it over to the left part. So let's see, this becomes x squared plus x minus 6 equals 0. Again, this is factorable. Factors of negative 6 are going to add to get to positive 1. are going to be x plus 3, x minus 2. So the two answers that this yields would be x is equal to negative 3 or 2. All right. So there's the two possible answers for the positive. Now for the negative, to set this up, again, you're going to take what's written in the inside of this, absolute value, and you're just going to write it without absolute values around it. So x squared minus 3x. Now this side is the one that we're going to make negative. So we're going to take that value and put a big negative sign around it in parentheses. So this is going to be negative 4x plus 6. And we're going to multiply by a negative 1. Okay. It's kind of like having that negative 3 in this original problem. Okay. So distribute the negative and take anything over to the quadratic side. So this is going to be x squared minus 3x is equal to 4x minus 6. I would subtract 4 over and add 6. So this is going to become x squared minus 7x plus 6 equals 0. When you factor this out, you're going to get x minus 6, x minus 1. And the two solutions that this will yield are 6 or 1. Now, I did say that there might be some extraneous solutions with absolute values. So what you need to do is go back and double check to see which of these work. And I did all the work for you. I am going to show it. You can pause it and maybe look at it. It's an overhead from last year. So let me go out with it a little bit. So you can kind of see I took negative 3 and I plugged it into both sides and it ended up working. Let me turn the light off. So negative 3 worked. 6 did not work. And then here, this was plugging in 1 and 1 did not work as well. So, oh wait, no, 1 worked. 1 was right here. 6 doesn't work. Negative 3 works. I think this is plugging in 2. You can kind of go through it. I know it's a little bit glared, but here, that may help a little bit. All right, so in the end, when you, after you check your answers, you can kind of go back up to here, and since the only two that worked were negative 3 or 1, you would just finalize your solution. These are the ones that didn't work because they were extraneous. And that's it.